Most men are not rejected. They're simply late. Late to read the room, late to feel the shift, late to recognize the silent moment when attraction stops being a possibility and starts becoming a decision. And here's the truth that will unsettle you a little. A woman does not choose you loudly. She chooses you quietly. Long before you gather the courage to move, she has already asked herself a question you did not even know was being asked. Does he feel grounded, or does he feel hungry? That distinction determines everything. You were never competing against other men. You were competing against her instinct. And instinct does not respond to effort. It responds to presence. Let me take you deeper. There is a psychological window that opens in every charged interaction, a subtle shift in breathing, a softening around the eyes, a fractional lean forward. Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic, but biological. Evolutionary psychology tells us that attraction is less about appearance and more about nervous system safety. Her subconscious is constantly scanning for one thing: regulation. Is this man stable under pressure? Does he react impulsively? Can he hold tension without trying to discharge it? Most men fail here, not because they are unattractive, but because the moment they sense opportunity, their energy spikes. They lean too fast, speak too much, smile too hard, move too soon. Desire leaks out of them, and leaked desire feels unstable. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts in that moment are frantic, don't mess this up, say something, do something. Your body will reflect that chaos before you ever open your mouth. She will feel it, and she will quietly step back. Not because she is uninterested, but because tension needs containment. This is where Stoicism stops being philosophy and becomes advantage. Epictetus taught that we cannot control external outcomes, only our internal response. In attraction, this becomes lethal knowledge. If her interest rises, you do not chase it. If her attention deepens, you do not grasp at it. If she pauses and looks at you a second longer than normal, you do not rush to fill the silence. You let the silence expand. Silence is not awkward when you are steady. Silence becomes magnetic. Here is something rarely discussed. A woman's attraction increases in uncertainty, but only when uncertainty feels safe. Dopamine surges not when a reward is guaranteed, but when it is possible. That possibility must feel earned, not grabbed. When you rush to confirm interest, you collapse the mystery. When you withhold out of fear, you create distance. But when you remain centered, neither chasing nor retreating, you create tension. And tension is the birthplace of desire. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of self-mastery as the foundation of higher men, not dominance over others, mastery over impulse. In modern terms, emotional regulation under stimulus. When she touches your arm lightly while speaking, that is not random. But the wrong move is not missing it. The wrong move is overreacting to it. The average man's nervous system flares the second he feels validation. His posture changes, his tone shifts, his eyes light up too intensely. He thinks he is showing interest. What he is actually showing is relief. Relief kills polarity. A grounded man feels the touch, registers it, and continues speaking with the same tempo, the same calm, the same contained presence. That tells her something deeper than attraction. It tells her you are accustomed to connection, not starved for it. There is a difference between confidence and restraint. Confidence is obvious. Restraint is rare. Seneca warned about becoming a slave to emotion. In attraction, impatience is a form of slavery. The man who cannot sit in charged space without escalating is not powerful, he is uncomfortable. And discomfort is readable. Watch what happens when you do the opposite of what most men do. Instead of filling every gap in conversation, you slow your speech. Instead of leaning in aggressively, you hold eye contact a second longer and then calmly look away first. Instead of reacting instantly to her physical signals, you allow a micropause before reciprocating. That pause does something profound. It signals choice. You are not reacting, you are deciding. And the psychology behind that is powerful. Humans are wired to value what appears selective. Scarcity increases perceived worth. Not fake scarcity, internal scarcity. If your attention is easily given, it holds little weight. If your touch feels automatic, it feels cheap. But when your movements are deliberate, when your responses feel chosen rather than triggered, your presence becomes heavier, more significant. Most dating advice tells men to escalate quickly before the window closes. What they misunderstand is this: the window does not close because you move slowly. It closes because you move nervously. There's a profound difference. A woman may test proximity. She may lean slightly closer. She may soften her voice. This is not permission for haste. It is an assessment. Can he stay composed? Because long-term attraction is not built on chemistry alone. It is built on psychological safety paired with tension. Safety without tension becomes friendship. Tension without safety becomes anxiety. The rare man creates both. He is warm but unshaken, engaged but not overeager, interested but not dependent on outcome. This energy is not manipulation, it is internal discipline. When you internalize this, something shifts. You stop asking, "Does she like me?" and start asking, "Am I rooted enough to handle her interest without losing myself?" That's the real test. And in the next layer, we go even deeper. Because once you understand how to hold tension, you must learn when to release it. And that moment, if mistimed, changes everything.
There is a moment in every charged interaction where the air becomes thicker. You feel it before you can explain it. Her tone softens, her movements slow. The space between you feels smaller, even if neither of you has physically moved. This is where most men sabotage everything. Because tension, when it rises, creates urgency inside the untrained mind. And urgency makes you predictable. Predictability is the quiet killer of attraction. Understand this carefully. When she leans closer, she is not asking you to rush. She is asking whether you can handle proximity without losing composure. There is a difference between reacting to energy and governing it. Marcus Aurelius wrote about standing firm like a rock against which waves constantly break. In attraction, the waves are emotional stimuli: validation, touch, eye contact, subtle approval. If each wave moves you, she feels instability. If you remain steady, she feels gravity, and gravity pulls. Here is the deeper psychology. Attraction activates the dopamine system. Dopamine is not the reward chemical, it is the anticipation chemical. It surges in uncertainty, in almost, in possibility. When you escalate too quickly, you eliminate anticipation. When you hesitate out of fear, you create frustration. But when you stay composed in the presence of rising tension, you stretch the anticipation. That stretch intensifies desire. She studies you in those seconds, not consciously, biologically. Does his breathing change? Do his pupils dart nervously? Does his posture collapse inward? Does his speech speed up? Evolutionary psychology is clear about one thing. Women are more attuned to microshifts in emotional regulation than men. For thousands of years, their survival depended on reading subtle cues. You cannot fake calm. Your nervous system will betray you before your mouth ever does. This is why self-mastery is not optional. Epictetus taught that freedom comes from controlling your inner responses, not external events. In attraction, that means this: you do not let her signals dictate your emotional state. You register them, you appreciate them, but you remain internally anchored. Now here is where it becomes sophisticated. When she lightly touches your forearm during a laugh, the average man's instinct is immediate reciprocation, often amplified. He touches back faster, stronger, longer. Subconsciously, he is saying, "Thank you for choosing me." The grounded man responds differently. He holds her gaze for a brief second as her hand rests there, not intense, not overwhelming, simply present. And then, gently, he mirrors the energy, not exceeding it, not shrinking from it. Mirroring without escalation communicates social intelligence. Escalation without calibration communicates need, and need dissolves polarity. Seneca warned about becoming enslaved to pleasure. When you chase the pleasurable moment too aggressively, you reveal dependency. Dependency is heavy. Calm authority is light. There is another layer most men miss completely. When she tests physical proximity, she is not only measuring chemistry, she is measuring boundaries. A man who invades space without invitation feels dangerous. A man who never closes space feels uncertain. The rare man understands pacing. Pacing is power. You lean slightly when she leans. You slow when she slows. You allow her to feel the energy growing but never exploding. That restraint creates psychological depth. It makes her wonder, and wonder is intoxicating. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke about the idea of becoming who you are, an individual forged by discipline. That discipline in attraction appears as composure under stimulation. Anyone can be charming when nothing is at stake. Very few remain controlled when chemistry is undeniable. Here is the uncomfortable question. When you feel desire rising, can you sit with it without needing to discharge it? Can you allow eye contact to linger without immediately speaking? Can you hold her hand for an extra breath, not to claim her, but to feel the moment fully? Most men move to relieve their own tension. The advanced man moves to amplify shared tension. There is a difference. When you pause before a kiss, not awkwardly but intentionally, you create a microsecond of suspended reality. Her brain floods with anticipation. Her body prepares. That half second, when done with calm certainty, imprints more deeply than the kiss itself, because anticipation engraves memory. But this only works if your pause feels deliberate, not fearful. Intentional slowness is attractive. Hesitation is not. This is the art of controlled escalation. You do not seize the moment, you allow it to ripen, and ripening requires emotional patience. The paradox is this: the slower you move with certainty, the faster attraction stabilizes. Rushing creates sparks that burn out. Contained intensity creates embers that last. And here is where identity framing quietly enters. You are not like most men. Most men look for validation. You are cultivating presence. Most men seek confirmation. You seek alignment. Most men escalate to secure outcome. You escalate when it feels inevitable. When she senses that you are not trying to win her but experiencing her, something shifts in her perception. You become less transactional, more sovereign, and sovereignty is rare. By now you might feel the shift inside yourself, a subtle recalibration, less urgency, more awareness, more control. Good, because in the final layer, everything condenses into one critical skill, knowing exactly when restraint must transform into decisive action. Too early and you fracture safety, too late and you dissolve tension. There is a narrow space where certainty and timing meet. And when you master that space, you stop wondering whether she chose you. You become the man she feels safe choosing. There comes a point where restraint is no longer strength. It becomes avoidance. And this is where everything is decided. You have held the tension. You have remained steady. You have allowed anticipation to build without rushing to collapse it. Now the energy is undeniable. Her body is angled toward you. Her voice has dropped into a softer register. Her eye contact lingers just half a breath longer than socially required. This is not the moment to analyze. This is the moment to act, without aggression, without apology, without trembling. The mistake most men make here is subtle. They seek permission in her eyes. They ask silently, "Is this okay? Are you sure? Is this the right time?" That hesitation fractures authority. Decisiveness, when calibrated and respectful, feels safe. Indecision feels unstable. Marcus Aurelius spoke of living in accordance with nature. Nature does not stutter when it moves. A wave does not creep toward the shore asking for reassurance. It gathers, and then it breaks. When the emotional current between you reaches its peak, you must move with that same certainty. Not fast, not frantic, but final. This is the difference between impulse and intention. Impulse rushes to relieve tension. Intention releases it at the precise moment it feels inevitable. You lean in slightly, not fully, just enough to reduce the distance. You hold her gaze, not intensely, not aggressively, but firmly enough that she feels your presence deepen. There is a pause. This pause is everything. Inside that pause, her nervous system scans again. Does he feel calm? Does he feel grounded? Does he feel certain? If your breathing remains slow, if your shoulders remain relaxed, if your eyes do not flicker with doubt, her body will answer for her. Often, she will close the last inch. And when she does, the moment seals itself. But understand something critical. Even if she does not close that inch, your responsibility is not to retreat into fear. It is to maintain composure. Epictetus reminded us that outcomes are not ours to control, only our actions. When you move with clarity and she hesitates, you do not collapse. You simply soften the intensity, smile slightly, and shift the energy without embarrassment. Why? Because the man who can handle rejection without emotional turbulence becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Not dangerous to her, dangerous to mediocrity. Rejection does not threaten his identity, and that confidence lingers far beyond a single interaction. Now, let's go deeper into what most people will never articulate. Women do not fall for dominance. They fall for emotional containment, contained strength, contained desire, contained intensity. When you kiss her, it should not feel like you finally lost control. It should feel like you chose that moment, deliberately. There is a psychological imprint that forms in decisive but regulated escalation. The brain associates safety with certainty. Hesitation activates doubt. Overaggression activates defense. But calibrated decisiveness activates trust. And trust, combined with tension, becomes attachment. Seneca spoke about the power of self-command. To command oneself is greater than to command others. In attraction, this manifests as seamless transitions, from eye contact to proximity, from proximity to touch, from touch to intimacy. No jerking movements, no abrupt grabs, no nervous laughter to break the silence, just smooth continuity, like you have been here before. Because here is the final truth. A woman is not assessing whether you desire her, she assumes that. She is assessing whether you can desire her without being consumed by her. That is the test. Can you stand in front of something beautiful and remain whole? Friedrich Nietzsche described the higher man as one who creates his own values rather than reacting to the world. In modern language, that means your emotional state does not rise and fall with her approval. If she responds warmly, you enjoy it, but you do not inflate. If she pulls back, you respect it, but you do not shrink. That steadiness imprints deeply. And now we reach the part that separates average from exceptional. After the moment. After the kiss, after the touch, after the charged exchange. Do you cling? Do you flood her with attention? Do you immediately try to secure the next meeting out of fear that the energy will fade? Or do you let the moment breathe? Dopamine thrives in spacing. When experience and absence alternate, desire matures. When everything is given instantly and repeatedly, novelty dies. So you end the interaction first sometimes. Not abruptly, not coldly, but confidently. You hold her gaze, you smile slightly, and you say you enjoyed the evening. Then you leave. Not because you were playing games, but because you were not afraid of space. Space allows her mind to replay the experience. Replay strengthens imprint. This is the part no one teaches. Attraction is not built only in presence. It is reinforced in absence. When she rethinks your calm pauses, when she remembers how steady your hands were, when she recalls that you never rushed, never begged, never overextended, you become different in her memory. And memory is where attachment begins. So let me ask you something direct. When the moment rises, will you tighten or will you anchor? When tension builds, will you grasp or will you govern? Most men seek techniques. Very few cultivate temperament. Temperament is what makes techniques unnecessary. Because when you embody restraint, timing, and certainty, your actions align naturally. You no longer chase signals. You no longer fear missing windows. You feel the rhythm, and you move with it, calmly, deliberately, inevitably. And that's when attraction stops feeling like a game you're trying to win and starts feeling like a current you know how to navigate. Steady hands, measured breath, unshaken gaze. That's the difference. Not louder words, not bigger gestures, just a man who doesn't lose himself at the edge of desire. And that's rare.